Hello everyone, welcome back to Carrie's Corner, the beginning of a new week and the continuation of the Pushcart War by Jean Merrill, illustrated by Ronnie Silbert. Last week we started a chapter and we saw this wild mass of trucks, and we're in the middle where Mr. Jerusalem comes back and talks to Maxi Hammerman. "On the street," said Mr. Jerusalem, "it does not look so neat." "That I know," said Maxi Hammerman as he stuck 5 P-pins into the map for Mr. Jerusalem, 4 red and 1 gold. Although Maxi had not left his shop all day, he had the clearest picture of the battle because all the peddlers had been coming in to report to him. "If there is, by chance, a street where the trucks have been getting through," said Maxi, "I can see it on the map. So whenever someone comes back to the shop for ammunition, I can advise him where it is most needed." "So far, Harry the hot dog has the record," Maxi told Mr. Jerusalem. "He has killed 23 tires, and he has come in for ammunition twice. How wonderful to be young," said Mr. Jerusalem. "We should give him a medal." "We will," said Maxi Hammerman. "The only thing that is worrying me," he added, "is General Anna." "She has not been caught," said Mr. Jerusalem. "No, she has not been caught," Maxi said, "though I do not know why she cannot aim at all. It is hard for a lady," said Mr. Jerusalem. "She comes to me in tears at 12 o'clock noon," Maxi said, "to tell me she has shot 25 P-pins and has not hit 1 tire. "Hitting is not important," said Mr. Jerusalem. "It is the spirit." "I tried to tell her," said Maxi Hammerman, "but General Anna says they call me General Anna. Should they call me General Anna for nothing?" "It does not matter," said Mr. Jerusalem. "Ho ho," said Maxi. "To General Anna it matters. So, do you know what she's doing now?" "What?" said Mr. Jerusalem. "She is sticking in the P-pins by hand," Maxi said. "By hand," said Mr. Jerusalem. "But anyone could see her do it." "I told her," said Maxi Hammerman. "I told her in broad daylight you were creeping up to a truck that is parked to deliver pajama trimmings on Hester Street. Are you crazy?" "I tell her," Maxi explained, "that it's much too dangerous. Do you know what she says?" There she is, sneaking up on a truck. That is very wild. "What?" said Mr. Jerusalem. "She says, 'Don't worry, who would suspect an old lady of putting a P-pin in a tire? If anyone asks me why I'm bending over in the street, I tell them that I'm looking for a hat pin that I dropped under the truck.'" Mr. Jerusalem groaned. "We shouldn't let her do it." "She has even had a policeman helping her look for a hat pin," said Maxi Hammerman. "We must stop her," said Mr. Jerusalem. "But she has killed 14 tires," said Maxi Hammerman, "since 12 o'clock noon." "By hand?" said Mr. Jerusalem. And now we start chapter 14, some theories as to the cause of the flat tires, the rotten rubber theory, the scattered PTAC theory, and the enemy from outer space theory. As the pushcart peddlers had hoped, the truck drivers had no idea what had hit them. There were clearly too many casualties in those first days of the pea shooter campaign to be laid to bad luck. But the truckers did not know who to blame. Big Mo at first blamed the tire company he traded with. He accused the firm of putting rotten rubber in their tires. There's a pile of tires that starts this chapter. Big Mo's suggestion so offended the president of the tire company that he refused to sell Big Mo any more tires. This turned out to be very inconvenient. Big Mo was suddenly very much in need of extra tires, and other tire companies were so busy filling orders for their regular customers that they could not spare any tires for Big Mo. It was curious, but for 3 days, no one who changed a truck tire found a P-pin that had done the damage. Either the P-pins had worked themselves down between the deep grooves of the tires, or the P had been broken off by the weight of the tire. It sometimes took 5 to 10 minutes for the air to escape from a punctured tire. So drivers whose trucks were hit while moving often did not discover the damage until they stopped for a light half a mile from where they'd been hit. Even those few mechanics who found pins in tires did not think them any odder at first than the nails or screws or bits of glass that they were always removing from the tires. Finally, one sharp-eyed mechanic found a whole undamaged P-pin, and when he extracted 2 more the same day, he began to be suspicious. Once the mechanics knew what to look for, they pulled quite a few P-pins from the truck tires. No one knew what the P-pins were, of course, because no one had ever seen one before. The newspapers printed in a large drawing of one. They called it a PTAC. It was supposed at first that a lot of PTACs had somehow been scattered throughout the city streets, possibly by a trucker hauling a load of PTACs. The police checked the P pages of the classified section of the telephone directory, but they could find no one in the PTAC business. Had the police looked under Peas Dried, they would have found Posey's Pea Company, by the ounce, by the pound, by the ton, and Mr. Posey might have told them that a lady named Wendy Gambling had ordered 1 ton of peas 10 days before, and the police might have looked into that. As it was, the police did not think of questioning Mr. Posey, and Mr. Posey did not think of telling the police about Wendy Gambling's order because he did not make any connection between his peas and the pea tax the newspapers were talking about, as the peas he sold had no tax in them. On orders from Mayor Emmett P. Cudd, Big Trucks Mean Progress, the police commissioner sent out several patrols to sweep the streets, hoping to clean up the pea tax. The patrols found a few pea pins that had missed their mark, but not enough to make it worth their while. At the height of the mystery, a truck driver named Mac, the same Mac who had run down Morris the florist, developed a theory. Here's a picture of the PTAC theory. See that right there? That the PTACs were coming from outer space. An invisible enemy, Mac suggested, was circling the Earth and spitefully bombarding it with PTACs. The fact that no one had ever seen a PTAC before and that there were no PTACs listed in the New York telephone book gave some weight to the outer space theory. Mac's theory resulted in a number of truckers driving about the city with their heads out the window of their cabs. There was a rash of head-on collisions of trucks whose drivers were scanning the sky for PTACs. The outer space theory was the most frightening theory so far proposed, as it suggested the additional possibility that the PTACs might be radioactive. Tests, of course, were run on the PTACs that the mechanics had collected. None of these showed any radioactivity, and this calmed the general public. But the truck drivers remained uneasy. Mac pointed out that the tests had been run on only a few PTACs and that there was no proof at all that other PTACs might not be contaminated, or, as a friend of Mac suggested, that the radioactivity had not passed from the PTACs into the tires. At this point, the morale of the truck drivers was very low, and many talked of quitting and going into some other line of work. The truck companies did everything they could to reassure their drivers. Several of the companies hired PTAC spotters to ride on the hoods of the trucks. The spotters were supposed to scan the skies and signal the drivers if they saw any PTACs in the air. Although the spotters signaled the drivers at frequent intervals, there's a head-on collision between two trucks. Oof. The signals all proved to be false alarms over a stray butterfly or a scrap of paper that someone had dropped from an office window. No one ever produced a PTAC that had come from outer space. Finally, it occurred to a newspaper reporter to ask Mac how he explained the fact that it was only truck tires that were getting hit. This was the first intelligent thinking that there had been on the problem, and it might have led to something had not a lady called a newspaper to say that it wasn't true that only truck tires were getting hit. She said that she had been painfully pricked by a PTAC as she was crossing 2nd Avenue. "Who missed?" demanded Maxi Hammerman when the newspapers reported this interesting development. "I didn't miss," said Harry the hot dog. "She insulted my sauerkraut, and for once I couldn't resist." "For once we understand," said General Anna, "but it shouldn't happen twice." General Anna had to be firm with Harry the hot dog, as he was such a good shot that his friends were now calling him Harry the hot shot, which he did not mind at all. In fact, he was so pleased with himself that he would not have hesitated to shoot at Mayor Emmett P. Cudd himself if anyone had dared him to. "I'm warning you, Harry the hot dog," said General Anna. "We are not shooting innocent people. That will only make trouble." What most infuriated the truck drivers was that no one seemed to feel sorry for them. People would call out to a stalled driver, "What's the matter, mister? A little trouble?" But they would smile as they asked the question, and no one ever offered to help a driver change a tire. The truth was that it seemed to amuse people to see an enormous truck made helpless by a mere flat tire. Newspaper cartoonists kept drawing humorous pictures of the handicapped trucks, and one television comedian made himself famous overnight by his imitation of a truck in trouble. Of course, there was great inconvenience to the city, with trucks stalled everywhere, but the trucks had been inconveniencing the city for a long time, and the fact that the trucks themselves were the most inconvenienced by this new development seemed to cheer people, and they did not complain too much. When the breakdowns began, the truck drivers had simply left their trucks in the middle of the streets until they could get mechanics to help them change the flat tires. But by the 4th day of the pea shooter campaign, there were so many trucks disabled that the traffic commissioner issued an emergency order requiring that all vehicles with flat tires must be removed from the streets within 1 hour of the time the flat was reported. The penalty for leaving a truck in the middle of the street was $500. As there were not enough tow trucks in the city to get all the stall trucks off the streets, the truck drivers, whose tires had not been hit, had to stop their regular delivery work to tow their friends to garages. And from time to time, one saw tow trucks with flat tires being towed by regular trucks. When a truck carrying perishable goods, fruit or vegetables, broke down, the driver often had to hire half a dozen push carts to unload the truck and deliver the goods before they spoiled. This was very good business for the push carts. "With the extra work," said Eddie Maroney, "we can, if necessary, buy more pins." By the 6th day of the pea shooter campaign, the number of trucks in the streets was reduced enough so that the traffic flowed at a brisk pace for the first time in 10 years. There were occasional tie-ups caused by the pushcart peddlers shooting down more trucks, but the trucks were removed in a short time. We're going to start chapter 15 next time we meet. So have a great beginning of your week. See you towards the end of the week. Have a great day. Bye-bye.